This is Jason Mo of Cascade Media and What's Up Kansas City. Today I have a special guest here, a good friend of mine, Mrs. Lady O. How are we doing today, ma'am?
I am doing so good. How are you, sir?
Good to see you again. So again, first off, let the people out there know a little about yourself, like who you are, where you're from, what you do for a living.
I am a social worker. Well, I'm in Kansas City. I wasn't born here, but I've lived most of my life here. And I am a licensed master's level social worker. And I work in a hospital right now.
Which one is that, by the way?
I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Just know
Fair
I
enough.
work in a pretty good hospital.
Okay,
And actually, more specifically, I work on a behavioral health unit for 55 and up
okay,
persons.
gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And so where you originally from then? You said I'm from Kansas City originally. Where are you from originally?
So I'm a military brat, actually. I was born in Great Falls, Montana.
It's a long way from here.
Very long ways, very
Yeah.
long ways. And I was born in the middle of a blizzard, actually. So that
No.
probably explains my personality.
Okay.
My mom would probably agree with you, but yeah, definitely not born here. But
Well,
like I said, I lived most of my life here.
okay.
I went to high school at Hickman and at Archbishop O'Hara. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So I brought you on today for a couple of things I want to talk about. I thought was important for us to kind of discuss in terms of the Black culture and what affects us here as a Black community. So again,
Uh-huh.
before you're a health expert, mental health expert, whatnot. So I want to
Yes.
talk about a couple of things that aren't discussed a lot with us as a Black people, and that is one is our overall mental health and the stigma that we have as far as not being able to discuss it with one another and with professionals, and also about just overall the sexual identity that we seem to have conflicts with as a people, society. So you talk a little about
Okay.
that for me?
Okay, so let's talk about mental health. What specifically do you want to know? The stigma
Um,
around it or why Black people
well,
don't?
I think that one thing that affects us is that Black folks, I think, like we said earlier for our recording, is that Black folks are born stressed already off the
Mhm.
bat. So because of
Right,
that, our mental is always challenged constantly, having to battle who we are as individuals versus having to battle society as a whole,
right,
how they accept us, don't accept us as a community, how we have to always constantly have that inner battle that we don't actually learn how to
right.
express and discuss with others.
So let's start here then. Let's start with the fact that your mental and your physical are connected. So, what that means is if you're born into a stressful situation, you feel that physically, and naturally, you're going to have anxiety and depression and all those good things. As we know, slavery did happen to our people, and that is the effects of it we still feel to this day. A lot of us are still stressed. Science even suggests that people are born with it in utero. That means the mother in pregnancy passed it down to her child. And more than likely, the sperm has been, impacted due to stress. And so, therefore, you have this child that's born in a stressful situation and feels the effects of this. And then it grows up in a society that does not accept them and is constantly oppressing them. And you even see your parents have to struggle and go through things that maybe other cultures don't have to go through. And so, therefore, you begin to get an anxiety and you begin to get a depression. And unfortunately, in Black people, that tends to look like aggression or
Mhm.
anger.
Mhm. Right,
That's what
right.
it looks like,
And a Black woman, the
unfortunately.
aggressive Black man who's scary, you don't be around him. So yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And so, therefore, unfortunately, we're given more aggressive diagnoses like schizophrenia. A lot of times, our faith, many people believe in Christianity in our culture or whatever your faith is. People believe in things like ghosts or saints and spirits. And a lot of times, unfortunately, because our depression and our anxiety looks different. So, it might look like aggression. And then you have somebody who spit out about the fact that they see ghosts or they saw their grandmother or their ancestors. Unfortunately, we tend to get the diagnoses of being psychotic,
See,
and
the
we're
thing about
not.
that is, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you say that you get that diagnosis, right? But as a
Mhm.
society, in general speaking, most people, us as Black folks, other cultures as well, white, whatever else, believe in afterlife, right? Most of us do,
Mm-hmm.
heaven and
Mm-hmm.
hell, that kind of thing, right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
believe in heaven and hell and spirits and things of that nature, why would you automatically, as society, want to dub us as having these issues when we see spirits, when that's kind of in the same realm of, believing in afterlife?
But I just told you, Jason, you missed the key part in what I just said.
School me
Our
again.
anxiety and our depression looks different than other cultures.
Mm.
It looks more, what I said before, aggressive, right? And so therefore, compound that with the whole belief of spirits, afterlife, whatever. I saw my grandma, what have you. A professional who already has a bias about us, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're told that we're more aggressive. They see that as not normal, and therefore you get the diagnoses of more aggressive, even personality disorders. Black women are actually a lot of times diagnosed with borderline personality disorders when it might be something as simple as bipolar disorder or, again, depression and anxiety.
Now I will say, now that you say that, I recall back to my childhood. I remember as a kid, the girls I grew up with, in my neighborhood, they did tend to seem to be a little more. They had a personality that seemed like it would go from friendly and nice one moment to the next, kind of be super aggressive and be mean. And you wonder what's going on with that, And like I didn't see a lot, say per se, in the young white girls as much as I did the young Black girls. So
Well,
coming
see,
up,
and I tend to disagree with you
okay,
because if you know anything, okay, so part of my life, I lived in Italy, actually. And if you know anything about Italians, Italians are very aggressive and they can switch. They could be having a conversation and you automatically assume they're arguing and they're not. They're not at all. They're just having a conversation, okay? And people don't view them as being aggressive, right? People
exactly,
don't view them
because they're not
as
Black.
being bipolar, right?
Exactly.
They just view it as part of their culture.
Yeah.
Why is that a stigma for our culture then?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, it's like overall, as the world sees us, that they fear us for whatever reasons. I don't know if it's our natural power or natural abilities or natural inclination for having a soul that seems to kind of express itself more outwardly than others do. But I think as Black folks, we by nature are able to express ourselves in a way that's more powerful, more demonstrative than other cultures, and they see that as a threat as opposed to just being that's who we are. That's our nature. That's our spirit.
Well, there's a lot of systemic forces at work about that. I mean, we would be here all day talking about just the different forces that go. I'm not lying.
I know. So I'm
Because of the
laughing because
fact
it's true.
that, there's a lot that goes into our stereotype when we may not be anything like what people think we are, right? But we're all supposed to be drug dealers and thieves and issues, right?
Yeah.
We're all supposed to be uneducated and don't know the English language at all, and
Yeah.
all be having like 20 kids, right? And we all didn't have a mother and a father in the home, correct?
Right. Right.
Exactly.
That's a
So
stigma.
there you go. That also goes to the same thing about there's no real Black families today. That's not true. Black men don't take care of their children. That's not true. All Black women just don't need a man. That's not true. That's the same perpetual stuff that comes. It's just a whole bunch of different forces that come into those stereotypes.
So we're battle all this all the time. Our stereotypes that are put on us all the time, and it does stress us out, obviously. So it leads to physical, mental health, things of that nature. High blood pressure, hypertension, things of that nature. So as a Black society, what is it about us that makes us hesitant to want to actually get that professional help? That we see it as a weakness as opposed to, just what is it about that we can't seem to get over?
Because we don't trust our professionals, for a variety of different reasons. I can think of two at the top of my head is because historically, yes, we have gone through science experiments, quite frankly, in which we were lied to, right? We were told that it was to make us better. We were told that it helps, and it didn't. It made us worse, right? And so a lot of us are not going to seek out a white doctor, right? Because that's what we see. And that's the other side of it too. Representation matters. So if you see someone like me who is helping you, you might be a little more willing to get help. But if you don't see someone like me, if you live in an area that there's not a lot of us, then of course you're not going to want to get help. In the city, there are a lot of places now, there are a lot of agencies in which they have people who look like us. Swope Health Central is one of them, has a phenomenal mental health system. It's a one-stop shop. You can not only get that, but you can also get healthcare, because that's also something else we have to work on, right? We don't seek out medical help. Truman is another place that is a one-stop shop. Rediscover reaches out to places even like Lee Summit. And a lot of times, as we've talked about before, a lot of our issue is we just don't have the information. We just don't know, right? Places like Blue Springs, though, they may not have a lot of people who look like us helping us. So Black people in those areas might be less willing to get help. You know, and that's a countrywide, worldwide thing. That's not just a Kansas City thing. You know, you're not going to seek help from people who don't look like you, who can't relate to you. You're not going to trust that. No. Traditionally, we've been in bad situations when we trusted the wrong people.
Yeah, that's history of us and medical professionals. You know, like me personally, right now, I go to St. Luke's personally for my primary care, but now I'm looking actually into getting a Black doctor. Not saying they're not any good what they do, don't get me wrong, but like you said, naturally, I'm just more inclined to listen to someone who has my same skin tone as opposed to someone who's white. I feel like they understand me more. It's just the way it is, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's unfortunate.
Absolutely. I myself have had a Black therapist, a Black female therapist, to work through issues. And I found that she was so much more helpful with the issues that I had at that time in my life than, you know, other therapists that I had been with who were white or male, particularly white male. You know, it's just very hard for me to relate to someone who doesn't understand my plight. So that's also true. Yes, you should. I have a Black doctor now, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely. We need more of those. So one thing that kind of goes with that is I hope in the future we see more young Black kids want to be that, doctors of certain types, to be kind of that foundational support that we need as a society going up, because we don't have enough of us.
But we don't have to wait for that, though. We don't have to wait for that. You know, I'm only 36 and I'm a licensed master's level social worker. That means I can do therapy myself. Now, that's not my zhush. That's actually not my passion anymore. I've done it with children, but there's a lot of us out here. More of us just need to pursue those degrees in those areas outside of being a medical doctor, because sometimes medical doctors don't even understand things like mental health. There is still a big disconnect between mental health and physical health. A lot of people, and doctors included, regard physical medical issues more than they regard mental health issues. The world is slowly catching up to the fact that they are very much linked. I guarantee you, someone who is suffering from medical issues, something as simple as diabetes, more than likely has even a mental health issue that goes along with it, a depression or anxiety about it. Those are pretty basic, something that everybody experiences, right? You don't necessarily have to be seeing and hearing things to have mental health issues. So let's also dispel that stigma. Mental health is not just seeing and hearing things that are not real or believing situations that are not true. And I know, unfortunately, when Black people are characterized in movies and shows as having mental health issues, that's what you see. You see more aggression.
The extreme aspect of things, as opposed to more.
You don't see, I'm just sad today and I'm having a hard time getting out of bed and going to work. Yes.
But you have
Black people do experience that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be around my kids because they're getting on my nerves. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Yes. Black people do experience that.
And that causes us to get into bad habits of actions that cause self-defeating actions, you know, as far as maybe smoking and drinking overly, excessively, things like that. To kind of escape the stress, you know, because it all comes together.
But let me say this. We also have to dispel the stigma that Black people are the ones who mostly drink and smoke. Guess what? All cultures do. All cultures drink and smoke and do all kinds of drugs and do all kinds of unsafe things to help with stress. Actually, I hate to tell you this, but that's really kind of an American thing. It's an American thing. We're so stressed. A lot of us do things like eat a lot, we drink a lot, we smoke a lot, we're stressed. That also is a mental health thing. PTSD, a lot of us deal with. And we do a lot of unhealthy things to cope with. That's not just a Black people thing.
Yeah, true. And switching gears, to kind of go back to the other thing I talked about earlier in our conversation was about the outlook or the perception of the how Black folks are expressing sexuality within our community. Because it seems like that one thing that I notice a lot is that you hear a lot of people talk about the down low brother, or you see more nowadays that the young sisters who are a lot more of the masculine type. They wear the baggy jeans, the baggy shirts, the low cut hair, and they just you look at them and you know that they just all they want to do is to date sisters. You wonder, how did they get that way, or how did a young man get to the point to where he's wearing these jeans down to past his ass, and he got makeup and mascara on, and he's just out there like, what is going on? Do you believe that makes our society seem like it's going more towards
so let's start here. Toxic masculinity. Let's start here. Let's have that discussion.
Okay.
Because I want to separate some things. I want to separate that butch girl and that guy who likes to dress like a woman, and those stigmas and those stereotypes from sexuality, what we're talking about. Okay. A lot of us are raised that our males are meant to be great lovers with big penises, and they're supposed to be doing all these things, right? That's even what goes around in other cultures. And the women, we're supposed to be whores. We're supposed to be women who like to get around with anybody, and we have kids with 20 different men because we just can't keep our legs closed. Those were stereotypes that were born to hurt us. And unfortunately, some of us still continue on and perpetuate those on each other. But what it causes is the actual opposite. Women, of course, are going to be closed-minded. They're not going to be eager to explore their sexuality because bad girls do that. Good girls don't do stuff like that. Good girls don't do things like have oral sex and engage in just freedom and understanding self-expression and understanding themselves. And men are not allowed to be tender. They're not allowed to be lovers. They're not allowed to really enjoy the moment. They're supposed to just be about theirs and get it and then treat her like trash, because that's what Black men are supposed to be doing. And they're supposed to have these penises that are 12 inches long and thick, and they're supposed to know what they're doing with it, when in reality, they don't know anything of what to do with it, because all they're doing is stabbing women.
Right. Yeah, there's a difference between stabbing and actually making love to a woman. There's a difference,
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it starts with making love to her mind, but that also starts with actually understanding your own sexuality and what it really means to you, and how you want to carry it out, and what your characteristics and how you want to connect with people in that way. And a lot of us are not free to be able to explore that. A lot of us didn't teach our children that. A lot of us were not taught that. And so again, I say, representation matters. It is easier to talk to someone that looks like us, who is comfortable with their sexuality. Now, I will admit, a lot of us tend to also kind of be against people like that and be like, oh, they're weird or whatever. But that usually is a representation of insecurity in ourselves.
Yes.
And the fact that we really do want to, learn some things, and we are unsure about some things, but we're not free enough to do that. And so, yeah. So again, representation matters. Someone like me who's very comfortable with their sexuality can have free conversations with other women who maybe want to learn. There's a lot of women who still haven't taken a mirror and looked down and seen what their vagina looks like. They have no idea what their vagina looks like.
That's unbelievable how that can happen.
Yes.
You would think, just out of curiosity for the human mind, you want to know what your entire body is about. Out of curiosity.
Yes.
Human nature.
That's something I think I did when I was 14. I think I was 14 when I was like, you know what? And I wasn't even having sex yet. I just wanted to see. And at first I was like, oh, because unfortunately society says about women in general, our vaginas should look one way, the way it looks like in porn, where it's professionally made, and these girls have had surgery and they've done things, filters on the camera, and that stuff isn't really real anyway.
Not real, no, not at all.
Right. So when your vagina doesn't look like that, and you first see what your vagina looks like, you're like, whoa, okay, wow. Vaginas come in all different shapes and sizes. So let's also start there. There's a lot of women who are very shocked by that. But I did that when I was 14. There's women who are 50 and 60 who still have no idea what their vagina looks like.
I can't.
So they can't even tell you even what an orgasm is either.
Yeah. See, and that also adds and compounds onto the idea of just the stress that we live as well, because that's one way as any society can relieve stress and be happier, is to have a healthier sexual active life. Because when you don't have that and you repress that, the repression can manifest other ways that you act out in negative fashion. Like I said before,
mental and physical, right?
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for me to hear a guy say that he is stressed out and therefore is not really interested or can't get an erection. And it's not unheard of for me to hear women who say, I'm just depressed and I'm not in the mood.
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about it. Yes, because they're linked physically and mentally is very, very linked. When you're experiencing depression, of course, your hormones are out of balance.
Yeah.
Your energy is out of balance. Yeah. You're probably not eating well. You're probably not sleeping well. You think you want to have sex? Probably not.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Those are very much linked. And then when you're not really being sexual and you have a partner and your partner is like, why don't we have sex anymore? Male or female, let's say that because it goes both sides, right?
Yep.
And then now you feel even worse about it. Like, I want to have sex with you. It's not that I don't, I just physically don't have the desire to.
Yeah. So in that kind of situation, say that happens in a couple situation, how would that person whose drive is low, how they be able to get out of that funk as a professional, as your profession, how they be able to get out of that funk to be able to get back to match their partner again, to want to have that normal healthy sex life again? What would they do to kind of start getting out of that funk, as a suggestion?
Well, you have to diagnose the issue, okay? So there's a lot of different mental health disorders, a lot of different reasons why things could be that way. So the first thing is figuring out what is it, okay? You can go to a professional. There's two different types of professionals that can really help. There's psychiatrists who can give you medication, and there are psychologists or social workers or even licensed therapists, LPCs, who can actually do the therapy side of things. That's talk therapy, helping you work through the issues. Not all the time when you need therapy, talk therapy, do you need medication, but all the time, I'm going to say, when you need medication, you need therapy to go along with it. Okay. Because not all of us are meant to always be on medication either. Sometimes it's just a short-term thing. Sometimes it is a chemical imbalance where your brain receptors are not right. You don't have enough serotonin. Those are receptors that give us energy and make us happy. And if you don't have enough of those, you may need a medication that does increase them and balance them out. Because too much of them is too much too. You don't want too many of them. You'll be like manic and all over the place, and you don't want that either, right? So you may need medication, and that's where your psychiatrists come in. But I'm going to say this again. This has been a theme this whole podcast. Representation matters. Of course, you're not going to really want to do that if you don't see psychiatrists that look like you and that could be in your best interest. And you're not going to want to do that if you don't know that there's therapists that also look like you and can help you and walk you through your issues, have even been through some of your issues. Some of us have been impoverished. Some of us have been from broken homes. We came to the field for a reason. Some of us have had addicts for parents as well. Some of us have even been addicts. So we can help you get through those situations, because not only do we look like you, but we've been through the same struggles as you.
Yeah. Again, remind those listening to us now, for those who may think about looking for that help, to kind of start that process to be happier. I think that's the key word you said earlier, being happy. When you're happy with yourself and with life, things tend to fall into place. From your job to your money to your sex life, all that seems to fall into place. So for those who kind of looking to find a way to find that true happiness, where they, again, remind them, can they go to kind of start getting a little bit of help, to kind of talk to someone or to seek that help?
Well, if you have health insurance, whether through a job or even Medicaid or just any type of health insurance, you can go to the agency and ask for a listing of professionals who can help you. You can even Google. A lot of search engines allow you to be able to look within their website and ask for specifics, like if you want male or female, if you want Christian or non-denominational, or even doesn't even deal with religion at all, just spiritual. Or if you want someone who is empathetic, sympathetic, or a part of the LGBT community, if you want someone who is Black or white or any other culture, you can even put those specifications in. I know Psychology Today, specifically psychologytoday.com, has that option where you can put in all those little details and get that. A lot of people's jobs have EAP. And that is a program that gives their employees free sessions. So it could be 5, it could be 10 sessions that your job gives you for free. You don't have to pay out of pocket. A lot of those agencies allow you to put in those specifications. And then if you don't have health insurance at all, but you are still very much in need, you can go to community mental health centers like Swope Health Services, like Truman Mental Health, or Truman Medical Center, rather. They also have a behavioral health whole segment unit. You can go to also Rediscover, who does branch out to areas like Raytown and Lee Summit and more on the eastern side of things, and even south as well. And then far east, your Independence, your Blue Springs, even Oak Grove, you have Comprehensive Mental Health, which is also a community mental health center. If you go up north, there is Tri-County Mental Health. They have their own. Clay County has their own stuff too. So it's not just a Jackson County thing. It can also be other areas. If you go way out in Harrisonville, they have Compass Mental Health. So there's a lot of community mental health centers that work on a sliding fee basis that go off of your income. And I can tell you, you have to make a decent amount to even have to pay a low amount. So let me also tell you that. So if that's a concern, they do work with you. And it may be that you don't have to pay anything. I know at Swope, if you don't meet the criteria to have to pay anything out of pocket for your services, you really only have to cover a copay, which is like $20.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And that's $20 for the whole day. So you can go to the dentist, you can go to the doctor, and you can go see your psychiatrist on the same day for $20.
There you go.
And they have a pharmacy.
Nice. Gotcha. Okay. So another thing we'll talk about, kind of finish up this conversation here. Outside of your profession, what you do for a living, what are you working on as far as your own personal projects that you want to kind of discuss, let people know about?
Well, it's actually funny that you even mentioned the whole sexuality in the Black community thing, because I myself am going to be starting a podcast soon. It's going to be called The O Spot, so be looking out for that. And I want to talk about those conversations. I want to be able to teach you how to do some things. I want to bring people on who can teach you how to do some things, some adult things. I won't go into specifics, but you get what I'm saying. Yes. And I mean, like the real nitty ditty, it's going to be a visual podcast. So just like here, you're going to be able to see it, and we're going to be able to demonstrate it. We're going to be able to talk. I'm even going to have a segment in which you can call in and ask your questions, either of me or of a professional that I have on. I even want to get sex workers. There's been a big thing in the media about sex workers being decriminalized. A lot of them are actually villainized, right? Yeah. They have a customer base, right? People are going to go see them, right? Yes. But my gosh, you put them in jail and you villainize them. They're the problems. No, they're not. No, they're just making their money. That's the oldest profession in history, you guys. Yes, it is. The first profession in the world. Yes. So I even want to bring on sex workers and even have them talk about what they do and what life is like. Believe it or not, a lot of social workers are in the sex field. A lot of them are strippers, or they do some kind of therapy that help people with sexuality, sex coaching, or they do other things too, that are more physical, shall we say, and they're in that industry. I mean, we know how to talk to people. Yeah. What better way to talk to people sometimes than topless? Yep. Hey, whatever works, you know what I'm saying? Whatever gets their attention, gets the conversation going, for sure. Yeah. Okay. We'll look forward to that. It's going to be called the O Spot, you said? The O Spot. Yes, it is. Okay. We'll look forward to that. Looking forward to that. Okay. Well, again, Mrs. Lady O, I want to thank you for coming on and joining us here at Cascade Media. What's up, Kansas City? We appreciate that. And again, as always, people, I always leave with this thought. Authenticity is a real currency in life. So keep it real. Peace.
This program is brought to you by Black Star Group.